Hello and welcome, everyone. Get the video going, Dave. This is not my shoot, this bit. You're supposed to put the video on first, but here we go. Little video before we start the Kevin Campbell show. This is from BetVictor. We're talking about Harry Kane, and this is the reason why I don't like Harry Kane and all those Spurs fans saying that he's better than Thierry Henry and actually slagging off their own players to justify their golden boy. And the reason I hate Harry Kane, and I'll be honest, is because he's a good player. If he wasn't good, wouldn't name he scores goals. I think he has improved his game with his assists as well. But there is that little doubt about him, and the doubt is, okay, in the Euro, in the was it the Euros or the World Cup? Should have played in. I think it was the World Cup. Should have played in Sterling. And we go through, and the greediness side of him means he wants to be the glory man all the time. He ends up, we go get knocked out. But I don't think you can deny what you said there. A great goal scorer.
Better than Henry.
I think. I'm not even going to have that conversation.
Better than Thierry Henry.
Whoa. He's nowhere near in the class of Thierry Henry. But
that's crazy. Of course he is.
No. He isn't.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
He hasn't got the tools.
Paul's nodding with me. He
hasn't got the tools.
Sorry, bro. I've been one of these guys that has argued against Thierry Henry all my life in the school playground, yeah. But listen, Thierry Henry put the fear of God into everybody going. Harry Kane, yes, but if it comes up against you in the final, I don't think you're that scared.
There you go. Spurs fans. Kev, before we go on it, Kev, Spurs fans, what is there an argument with Harry Kane and Thierry Henry? And I know we're all Arsenal fans, but is there an argument?
You know what, Lee? Listen, welcome. I just want to welcome everybody to the stream.
No problem.
And obviously, chatting with Campbell, Lee Judges, he's the man with the mostest, Lee Judges TV. We've got Gooner Russ in the house. How you doing, Russ?
Yeah, good, Kevin. Nice to see you. Nice to see you, Michael and Lee.
All right, let me introduce Magic Mike. Will you, Russ? I'm asking about you. You're taking all the glory away from me. How are you, Magic Mike?
I'm doing well. I think this might be the first podcast in the history of podcasts where I'm the youngest one on the panel.
Oh.
Only just.
Hey, yeah, you might be.
You guys are in a whole different league.
There you go. You might be. But hey, listen. Let's get started. Lee, before we get going into Arsenal Leicester, let's just touch on obviously the news that's come out about another London club, Chelsea. What's your thoughts on the Chelsea situation? I'll speak to you. I'll ask you, Russ, and then I'll ask you, Magic. What's your thoughts on that?
Well, my thoughts are welcome back to the real world. You know, like I think at the end of the day, listen, they've had no other owner, and I don't care who it is, that does what he does. I'll tell you, the nearest owner to Abramovich, and it's on a much lower scale, was Walker?
Jack Walker.
Jack Walker at Blackburn,
Blackburn.
Blackburn. He completely just put his own money into it and that. But look what happened when he pulled out of Blackburn and sold up. Where are Blackburn now? They went back to where they were before in the second division, which is now the Championship, obviously. Like that. That's where they went. That's what happened to them. So that's where they, all my lifetime, that's where they were until Jack Walker come along with that money. The same thing will happen with Chelsea. They go back to where they were, you know, with everybody else, you know what I mean? Like challenging for the Europa League, challenging for the top four, maybe, and the odd cup, like they were doing before, Kev. You know what I mean? In your era, I can tell you that now they was a threat, but not a massive threat. Yes, every now and then when they got a result against us. I remember watching Chelsea when I started watching football. They was in the second division. Up and down. Do you remember when they come back up and Kerry Dixon scored in a 1-1 game, their first game back in the big time? They took up the old clock end. Credit to them, like, you know. But ultimately, I remember Chelsea when cars used to watch them because they had a car park on their pitch. You know what I mean? Like, it's true. Yeah. So for me, I think they go back into to the pack. And that's how I feel it'll be. Like, the Abramovich era for them has been unbelievable. But now they're going to have to hopefully suffer the consequences of what he's done and everything like in the past. I think that we all know. Listen, I feel a little bit sad for Chelsea in one respect, because it's you can't. It's them. I blame the Premier League for allowing him to become an owner in the first place, Kev. But look, it's done now, and it's a mess. I'm going to say it's a mess.
Russ, what's your thoughts on it? Lee makes some good points there, but what's your thoughts?
Yeah, the little last point you made there, Lee, about the due diligence of the FA and the Premier League in allowing him to. What are you smiling at, Mike?
Your pronunciation of that was a bit suspect.
I'm gonna eat large portions of humble pie. Yeah, perhaps another podcast. We won't have time to do this today, but no, it's all come home to roost, and there were a lot of questions by people when he first took over as to his scruples, his morals, etc. And we've always had the higher ground, haven't we, with the history, class, tradition of our football club being run the right way, and not having a sugar daddy to pile loads of money into us, etc., etc. And this day was always going to come, but obviously this tragedy that's occurring in the Ukraine has just sped it along a tad, and has showed him for what he is, really. And unfortunately shown some Chelsea fans to be what they are, because shouting out his name when they're having a minute's applause for Ukraine at the weekend, and it's just not very classy at all, is it? And I've seen some comments today from Chelsea fans on social media saying that the government here has always been out to get him, and it's a disgrace, and it's a witch hunt against Chelsea, etc., etc., etc. I'm afraid this day was always going to come eventually. He was always going to want his money back, and now he's not even going to get his money back because it's all been sanctioned, and I'm afraid Roman gets sanctioned everywhere he goes.
Yeah. Magic, I mean, look, Magic, I want to ask you, obviously he came out with a statement last week and he said he didn't want the money back when the club was sold. That was going to go into a foundation for the people of the Ukraine. Do you reckon that was a little bit of his lawyers and stuff knowing what's coming down the pipe?
It's a lot of that. It's a lot of the fact that he doesn't need money. Unless he literally loses it all to not being frozen, but being confiscated, which I'm not sure that that's going to be the way that it plays out. But he's trying to look like the good guy here, and he's not. And he's, the only cups they're going to be competing for, Lee, in the next, after about a year or two from now, is the Papa John's Cup and the FA Trophy. Because, I'm not even sure it's going to stop at one level of demotion. This team is so highly leveraged by the funding of one person, more so than any other club in the world. They would be running £200-300 million deficits every single year if it were not for him pumping the money in to cover it. And now, without him running the money to cover it, they still have their own expenses. They've got £350 million of payroll to pay every single year, and their expenses continue. They're not going to be able to function on a sugar daddy basis anymore. And that doesn't just mean we can't buy every player we want and win everything on site. It means they can't meet their obligations. I don't think they're going to be stopped at the 3 or 4 players that are out of contract this summer leaving. I think they're going to be in a situation where, unless something totally corrupt happens and they're basically allowed to get out of this by the powers that be in the Premier League without any significant loss, I think they're going to have to essentially release a lot of the players from their contracts, because there's jeopardy of them not being able to get paid. They got to pay rent to Stamford Bridge. They don't own the stadium. They have, who's going to buy this club when it's mired in this situation with that much debt? If you want to be a sugar daddy for a club,
Yeah, you're not going to go in
buy
with
Sunderland,
that.
you buy Sheffield Wednesday, teams with Premier League stadiums that they own, and you have the ability to build from the ground up. So, I mean, Papa John's, Chelsea is really royally screwed in this situation.
Well, Mike, just for everyone, I think with the FFP as well, financial fair play is going to play a massive part because that funding stream is gone.
Yeah,
they're not going to be able to convert the loans to shares anymore. So they're in real problem. They can't negotiate contracts. They can't sign anyone. So you imagine there's going to be players in that squad who's got 1 year left. They're going to want out.
If they treat Chelsea like they treated Wigan, like they treated Reading, I think, if they, like they treated Barry, to be perfectly honest with you, if they do that, then we're going to see points dropped due to penalties. We're going to see potential administration. And at the very least, we're going to see a team that, once this all filters through, maybe a year, maybe 18 months from now, we're going to see a team that will have, they will have Dennis Wise playing for them. I don't mean a Dennis Wise type player. I mean like the current Dennis Wise.
Well, can I ask a question? Because I don't really understand.
I hope
this.
He's not dead. I don't. I didn't mean to.
If they sell it, where's the money going to?
Well, the sale would probably confiscate the proceeds of any sale. What someone has to pay to buy it will probably be essentially confiscated by the UK government and probably go towards something in Ukraine, like Roman said he was going to do.
Well, Mike, yeah, it goes to the foundation, Lee. He's set up the foundation to take the proceeds of the sale to help the people of Ukraine, which at the time, you're saying it's an admirable thing to do. But I think obviously he's got wind of what's. Sorry?
I don't think he actually said that it was going to go to the proceeds were going to go to the victims of Ukraine. He said it would go to the Russian war.
No, it was for Ukraine. The foundation was set up to take the proceeds and to help of that faction, whether it's both sides, whatever it was.
I think it was rather vague, Kevin, to be honest.
Okay, but
intentionally vague.
But the fact of the matter is, he wasn't receiving the money. Yeah. That's the difference. He weren't going to be receiving the money, Lee. So you're
muted.
Sorry, what's the point of him selling it? That's what I can't get at. So why sell it then? Why don't he wait until he gets his sanctions lifted? I don't understand it.
Well, he can't because he can't. Well, he can't function. That's it. Finished. He can't function anymore.
Can they just?
He's not going to be bothered because he can't get no money anyway. Does it matter to him?
Can't. Yeah, of course it does because he can't function as the owner.
The owner can't
function. He can't fund it. Whatever mechanism
he's going to sell it, and he ain't going to make no profit anyway. That's what I'm saying. He's going to sell it. He ain't.
But that's his way out.
Hold it?
No, but that's his way out. It's no point him holding it, Lee, because he can't fund it. And if you can't fund something that's costing that much money, then it's going to collapse.
Him being the owner and not being able to put any money into it or not being able to take any money out of it or make any money from it.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying.
Than them selling it.
I'm thick. If he sells it, he ain't going to make any money now. If he keeps it, he ain't going to make no money.
No, but Lee, the reason why he's got to sell it is to help the club stay on its feet. Because
that's the only reason he's doing it.
Yeah, whatever mechanism they've got on the inside of how they work it, that stops now because obviously he's in the sanctions. Whatever's
and
going on.
As long as he owns the club, you're going to see. That commercial revenue that's at 160 million pounds a year. That's one of the only things that they actually bring in other than TV money. By this time next year, they might be having 20 million of commercial money, and that's from the people who just couldn't get out of their deals. Because who is going to want to sponsor a team that's owned by Roman Abramovich at this point? So the biggest favor he can do to the club is just essentially give the club away and
And
allow,
walk
I
away.
guess, the UK
Drop it
government
and
or the
walk
Premier
away.
League to administer a sale to an appropriate party, and that party is not going to do what Roman Abramovich did. So
Listen,
there's so many different
anyway,
ways this can fall apart, but it's gonna fall apart.
Anyway, guys, let's talk about the Arsenal. Let's look forward and look up. Let's talk about the Arsenal. All right. Whatever's going down Chelsea, the same road to success Chelsea took is the same road to ruin. So that's their business. Massive game on Sunday for us. We know Leicester play tonight. One of the reasons why we're not in Europe, we were saying this should be of a benefit to us. Now we've got an opportunity for it to be of benefit to us, Lee.
Yeah.
What's your first thoughts on the current situation at Arsenal and obviously Leicester? We sit in 4th, they sit in 12th.
Yeah, I'll be honest. I thought Chelsea. Chelsea. I've got Chelsea on the brain. I thought Leicester would be a lot higher up, but listen, they've had lots of injuries this season, So, and I think that has hindered them. But I did think that they'd be a lot stronger than what they are. So be it. For us, I think it's a massive game on Sunday. We are currently 4th with games in hand, and that sounds fantastically well. If we can get a result here, then we've got Liverpool in the week, which is a massive game, and then Villa will be a game in hand in so many
roundabout
respects.
way, yeah,
roundabout way because of the FA Cup that weekend. So it's really good. It's a fantastic time to be taking on Leicester in between the conference games. They've got obviously like us on Sunday, and I don't know how they're getting on in their conference game today, but they've got to play obviously today and then next week. Think back when we was playing in Europe, and we had a massive game when we weren't really playing for nothing. It's all about this game. I remember us going to Man United in between the semi-final. I'm not really worried about what happened there because it's more important when we was playing Madrid. So they're going to have that little bit of mentality. They've picked up a few injuries. I think it's a perfect time to take them on. In saying that, I still believe it'll be a tough game. I don't think we can take any team lightly at this moment in time. I'm going to say this now. I was really impressed with the way we played at Watford. I know Watford are getting stuff today, but ultimately, if we'd have been a little bit more ruthless and decision-making in the final third, I think we'd have beaten Watford comfortably on Sunday. I was standing with Russ, and I turn around to Russ just before they scored, and I said, "Do you know what? This is the most comfortable I've felt at Vicarage Road for a very long while." And then Sissoko scored.
Sissoko scored,
yeah, and he's gone, "Why don't you shut your mouth?" But what I thought we was cut. I thought we played some.
We
really,
were.
really
I
good
thought
football.
we were as well.
Yeah, and to be honest, even when it was 1-1, the way we was playing, I didn't feel like I thought that we was going to create chances and score goals, and I thought it was a very good performance. And do you know what? More and more, anything that I'm really looking forward to. Jenny's just told us that Leicester are 1-0 up at the moment, so that's good news. So that keeps them in that tie and one eye on it. I have to say, I'm really, even though there's a lot of pressure on the game on Sunday, I'm really buzzing and looking forward to going because the football that I've seen in the last couple of games, I've sat there and really enjoyed it, Kev. I don't care what anybody says. I could have sat there, put my feet up and just watched Saka on last Sunday. And just enjoyed it. It was absolutely breathtaking. He weren't the only one, but obviously Odegaard as well. But I just thought it was a fantastic performance on Sunday. I'm really looking forward to the game, and I'm pretty sure that we get the 3 points, but I don't think it's going to be easy.
Yeah. Russ, what's your thoughts on our form? And obviously the two managers, because, there was a lot of people giving Arteta pelters, really, and saying, we should have gone for Rodgers. Can you remember that narrative? There was a lot of people saying that, but look now, we're 4th and they're 12th. What's your thoughts on our form and the managers?
I'm going to give Mikel Arteta a great deal of praise because some of the stick and some of the criticism I think has been unfair. He's building a young project. You could see that I think that the game where it all sort of hinged and turned for me was the Man City game when we actually gave them a real tousing in that game, and we're very unfortunate to get anything out of that game. And all of a sudden, we changed from this dour low block team into this team passing the ball around them and getting in behind them, and it was like a breath of fresh air. And I thought, right, that's it, we'll crack on now. And then all of a sudden we play Burnley and Forest and we go back to type again, and it all went rotten. But then now I'm starting to see patterns of play. I'm starting to see partnerships. I'm starting to see people taking responsibility on the pitch. I'm like Odegaard. Odegaard has been absolutely brilliant for the last 3-4 games. Absolutely outstanding. Now I'm starting to see the player we thought we might get. And Brendan Rodgers, good manager. Nothing wrong with Brendan Rodgers at all. He's a great manager. He's managed Liverpool, for God's sake, so he's not a mug, is he?
No.
He's no mug. So,
won the FA Cup last year, Russ.
He's a mug.
Yeah, exactly. He's no mug. He's not a mug. I think where he struggles with a team like Leicester is the lack of squad depth. I mean, it ties his hands, and he has to rotate sometimes, and the quality's not there. And as Lee said earlier, his injuries have been, absolutely dreadful. He's had, 5, 6, 7 key players out at a time sometimes. So, who's had Fofana out? Is it Justin? He's had Vardy. He's had
Vardy. And DD, he's had quite a few.
Yeah, key players out, which has really hamstrung him. But I think he's a good manager, and he's not to be taken lightly. He's tactically astute. He's not a mug, as some people think he is. He has been hamstrung by lack of squad depth. Mikel, I'll give him a lot of praise. Listen, I never wanted the man here at the beginning, but the way we're run, the self-sustaining way, we have to go with this, because we are not. I honestly believe, even if we don't get Champions League, they're not going to sack him, because this is not going to be a 2 or 3 year project. This is going to be a 5-year project, and I hope that it seems to have come along really quickly in the last 6 or 7 months. So hopefully that rate of progress accelerates and carries on going, and we can get UCL, and we can get that extra bit of money into the club, and we can buy those 3 or 4 players we all know we need, especially centre forward. But for another day.
Yeah, to strengthen. So let me come to you, Magic Mike. Your thoughts on the managers, and your thoughts on the recruitment, our recruitment and Leicester's recruitment, because Leicester have been really renowned for recruiting really well. They've brought in Lookman, they've brought in Paxton Daka. They've got that Dewsbury Hall, who looks to be a useful player, who was on loan at Luton last season. He's come in, he's a left footer, looks pretty useful. And just want to know your thoughts on that. And are we kind of doing what they do? Because they kind of bring in people who we don't really know, and they really do well.
I've always, there was one pickup, and I don't know that he's going to turn out to be incredible or anything, but he's been more than serviceable for them. Where we were rumored with this guy, and it just ended up that he went to Leicester, and I thought, why are Arsenal and Arsenal fans who rant and rave about transfers, and why is the club not satisfied or happy with bringing in a guy like Soyuncu, who's the guy I'm talking about, where maybe he's one club or 2 years away from really being the player that everybody would want him to be. But we've just constantly said, okay, well, they're not in our class. They go somewhere else, they perform well, and then they go to a rival for like 70 million pounds more or 40 million pounds more than they paid. And I'm like, that's the kind of thing that we need to do. Now, would you compare the Soyuncu pickup to the Tomiyasu pickup? Yeah, I would, and say we found a great bargain and did a good job of picking somebody who, wasn't crap in the process. And I think we're maybe modeling our recruitment after Leicester, which is a weird thing to say, considering we wouldn't think that they'd be someone that, just based on name and history that we'd be patterning after. But you got to pick up the positives from the teams that are doing things right. And the one thing that Leicester has done right, and it's led to success, is their recruitment. They're not worrying about picking up a Conte before he's on big money, not worrying about picking up guys like Tielemans, and I mean they make the deals that a lot of other teams just aren't ready to commit to yet, because maybe they're not good enough to push their starters. Also, Arsenal is playing so well recently that Dan Potts didn't want to show his face tonight, and that's why he asked me to sub for him, I think. But Lee said he's looking forward to going to the next few games. I'm looking forward to coming over. When I planned this trip with my son for the first 2 games in April, it was in January, and everything. I was just worried that these games were going to be dead rubbers and bad environment. Everyone was going to be complaining and Kroenke out protests, and I'm like, that's not really the environment I want to take my son into and visit. And now, I mean, unless God forbid something goes horribly wrong in the next few weeks, which I'm confident it won't, we're coming into a pretty big run-in with a lot at stake. So I cannot wait for those games. And as for Brendan Rodgers, I mean, on the scale of 0 to mug, I don't believe. I think a lot of people are hoodwinked by this guy. I mean, I watched a all or nothing Liverpool type of thing, but it was called Being Liverpool back when he was at Liverpool, and just his act seems so like a novelty to players who are maybe encouraged to play above their station, and it wears off after a while. I think it happened at Liverpool. He had everything at his disposal in Liverpool, and as soon as he lost one very good player, he lost the team. Celtic's another situation. You could win at Celtic with your eyes closed, but I think it's starting to happen at Leicester. I don't see this as a one-season blip. I think that he's just not the type of manager that can sustain a top team and a top level. And I was praying that we didn't make a move for him. I just vehemently disagree with anyone that thought he would have been a good coach for us, because Arsenal's a big name. It's a heavy badge.
I think it was a good idea either, Mike. I'll agree with you 100% on that.
I mean, and to excuse a 12th or 13th place performance this season on injuries, I mean, no one gave Arsene Wenger the benefit of the doubt when we had 9 players who had hamstring injuries at the same time. Back in 3, 4, 5, 6 years ago. So, you got to
get that time. Yeah.
And Leicester, more than most other clubs in the Premier League now, because of their success and their investment, they do have a little bit of depth. And so that, if you had a great coach, you should be able to handle it. And I just don't see him that way.
Lee, good point by Mike. So let me ask you this, Lee. Could this be a audition for Tielemans? We've been linked with Tielemans, haven't we? And we know what a good player he is. The Leicester haven't been themselves of late, and his contract's up at the end of the season. Is this an audition, possibly?
Well, I think he's listen. I've liked him very, very much so, but didn't it seem funny that he's having all these contracts negotiations and he's sort of turning them down, and maybe he's just lost a little bit of heart. I don't think he's been that great this season. I think one of the reasons that that Leicester, with their injuries and all that, I think that he's the one that keeps them ticking going forward as well, and everything. Like, he hasn't been quite on it, still a good player, of course he is. I'd like to see him at Arsenal. I really would. He's the sort of player I think Arsenal needs, someone that can pick the pass between the lines, can nick a few goals from midfield as well. I think that's something that we've got. Whoever we go for in the summer, we've got to look for somebody that can score goals in midfield. Now, hopefully, he ain't going to score no goals in from midfield on Sunday. But I do think he's a very, very good player. I think he's in his mind, he's done with Leicester. He's had his time. He wants to go on to bigger and better things, and unfortunately with Leicester, I've got a lot of admiration for Leicester, the way that they've won the league, they've won the cup in the last few years, kept all these players, but eventually the players want to hit the bigger stage. I don't think that's a knock at Leicester.
You're not speaking out of school. Yeah, you're not speaking out of school about that.
No, it's just the way it is, and I think that he's probably just outgrown that time for him now. Arsenal would be a perfect movement. I do think, though, that other teams will be looking at him and maybe thinking about him. I think personally, I wouldn't be looking too much into how he plays against Arsenal or how he plays too much in the next few games or to the end of the season. If I'm going to be really honest, when it comes to Mikel, I've got my doubts a little bit every now and then, because you see what Russ said, the Nottingham Forest and Everton, but ultimately he seems to be getting it consistently right. The one thing I won't doubt is that their transfers at the moment in time. If they say it's Tielemans, then and they go and get him, I'm happy with it. If
You're
they
going to
say
trust that. You're going to trust that.
Yeah, I trust that. So if they say it's not Tielemans and it's I don't know somebody else, I'm not
Kasuba or whoever. You're going to trust their judgment.
I do trust them to get that right, and I do trust them on that. I really do. So,
Lee, do you trust them with the not signing anyone in January part as well? I'm generally asking. I don't know.
I actually said that I wasn't that concerned about it. The main reason I wasn't that concerned about it was because I don't think we've got a lot of games to have a big squad. And if you've got a big squad of players, listen, if Arsenal had signed Vlahovic, I think that would have guaranteed us top 4, and I was happy for us to just that one and only signing. Couldn't do
Possibly even top 3. Possibly even top 3.
Yeah, it would have been a massive signing for us. But I looked at it and I thought, look, if you sign a couple of players here, look at the squad now. If they don't get no injuries, there ain't going to be many
opportunities.
Many opportunities to get games. So I think that you need a small, and I think that they've looked at that and thought, you know what, we'll work with a smaller squad this time around, and it's a gamble as far as you want to look at it as far as injuries are concerned. But when you've over these last, well, I always think that January, I don't know about you guys, but January, February, March, I always think it's a tough time for games and what like rain, cold, and whatever. We've had 10 days off. 5 days off, a week off, and all that, So you can't. It's like I think on Sunday, if he'd have left out Martinelli, he couldn't actually say to Martinelli, "I'm resting you," is he? He ain't played for 2 weeks. So you have to say how it is. I'm leaving you out because you're not playing. At this moment in time, all the players at the moment are getting enough rest and everything like that. So if you got game on first, like this week, you got Liverpool coming up in midweek. You maybe could say to someone like, I'm bringing Smith Rowe in, freshen it up or whatever. But ultimately, we haven't had that thing. So I think it's not been a bad thing to do that. I think that the transfer policy will be. I think if we. How can I say at the end of the season, if we get 4th or even what Russ said, get 3rd, you'll look at it and go, do you know what? That was class. They got that spot on.
It's a gamble, but I think
it is a little bit of a gamble. A bit of a gamble, but I don't think it's one where I've gone panicking about it too much. Yes, we wanted the forward, but I tell you what I do like about it. We thought, well, we have. Vlahovic is what we wanted. We couldn't get him, so we're not just going to go and get somebody else who just. And at the end of it, lads, you know what I mean? Like at this moment in time, if we had signed a forward, right? Like Vlahovic, I think would have probably come in. But if we hadn't signed the one of that, look what we do now. Like, you know what I mean? We've got we would have a centre forward sitting on the bench all the time.
Yeah, Lacazette would have been sitting on the bench. We don't know how that would have affected Saka and Martinelli and ESR, who Lacazette kind of releases, even though he doesn't score himself. So I think that was brilliant, and it was they pushed all their chips to the middle, but I think that they were playing with the house's money a little bit, because I truly believe that finishing 4th this season will be one season prior to when Arsenal really thought they would finish in 4th. And so they didn't feel the pressure to have to gamble everything on players that may or not be the players that they really wanted, just to try to solidify 4th, and then losing out on that is a massive downside.
Yeah, I didn't want to see
Russ, let me ask you. Yeah, Russ, let me ask you this then. Lee and Mike makes a really good point. So let me ask you this then, Russ. The fact that the club didn't go into the market in January because they couldn't get who they wanted, I've got no problem with that.
No,
they obviously showed a lot of trust in the current squad.
Yeah.
Do you trust in the current squad to get us to where we need to get to this season?
With the fixtures we've got, I think the squad, as Lee said, is just about going to cope with it. But if we'd have stayed in the cups and
Yeah, great
and had
point.
those extra fixtures, I think it would have been difficult.
It's a masterclass then getting knocked out. Perfect.
Well,
No,
sometimes-
not at all.
I'm kidding.
Hey, Mike, shut it.
but sometimes these things pan out the right way. And I wasn't happy we didn't sign anyone in January because I'm never happy when we don't sign players in the transfer window. Everyone knows that. But if there weren't the right players available, we've kept our powder dry until this summer. Now, this summer window, there are no more excuses left.
100%.
No more excuses. The recruitment has got to be done this summer. We've wiped away all the dross. That's one thing I will give Mikel Arteta for great credit for, is he's had to manage through this mire of dross that was left him with all the toxicity and,
Clicks and everything.
Unprofessional behaviour by some of the players. He's waded through all that, cleared the decks. Now, there's a lot of money being wiped off the wage bill, which should be made available now for him to go have a proper go at some decent players to take us up a notch, because we're starting to see passages of play that really excite me. Little passages, we can't sustain it yet because we haven't got that next level player that can sustain it for that bit longer. Partey's improved. Xhaka has improved by being pushed forward up the park a little bit. He's still got a big mistake in him, though, as we saw Sunday. He's got that stupid crossfield ball when we're in control of the game. And all he's got to do is holdable. So if we can upgrade on him, because I think most of us are resigned to the fact that he will be going this summer, we can upgrade on him and get a decent, powerful, hold-up centre forward and a couple of other another fullback, perhaps get Saliba back, then I'll be happy. I'll be happy with 4 players coming back, including Saliba, coming into the squad to refresh it. And then some
Russ,
other youth being topped up.
Russ, you think about this. We're going to lose Lacazette probably, Eddie, El Neni.
Yeah.
So that's another 3. So 4 would only give us 1 more player. I think we need about. Ideally, I believe we need about 8 players.
Are there any more players? Coming through Haalendo? Are there any more that we might see?
But they're young. They need to. The Patinos of this world, I believe, need to go out on loan. Do you think so, Mike? Lee?
Yeah.
Russ, these guys need to learn the game.
Next season, maybe Balogun gets back in, especially if Nketiah leaves for depth. But, that's the season that Patino goes on loan, Beereth goes on loan.
The other thing is, in the last few years, we've been dealing with the Europa League, where you could blood a few youngsters, get them playing, get in the group stages, and rest a few of your so-called established players. But if we go into the Champions League, it's a different kettle of fish.
Yeah. The level of player has to be better.
Yeah.
You can see now when Lacazette tries to sprint for a ball, it just ain't there, is it? Bless him. It just hasn't got that in him anymore.
He hasn't got the zip. And you know what? That's why signing up. I think we need 2 strikers. If I'm honest with you, I think we need that pacey striker who can. Yeah, go on, Russ.
In an ideal world, yes, but
Champions League world, Russ. The Champions League world. You know
the way Arsenal FC perform in transfer windows. It's difficult at times to get these things done. And
hey, Russ, don't contradict yourself, Russ. Hey, don't contradict yourself. You just said there's no excuses, and now you're making excuses about it's difficult.
Yeah.
No.
Well said, Kevin.
Don't contradict yourself. Please.
No, from my point of view,
is a walking contradiction.
That's not to say that there won't be excuses, because they will make excuses if they can't get these things done.
But we're not going to accept them, are we?
Good.
We know.
Good.
They've cleared the decks. We're losing, in theory, 3 strikers this season.
Yeah.
Aubameyang, Lacazette, and Eddie. We're not saying Eddie's the answer, but we're still losing him. So after that, so So we need minimum 2, I believe, and then you got Balogun coming in as well. So listen, we need a striker, a big striker who can be physical.
Yeah.
We definitely need one of those. We definitely need someone who's quick, who can link play, and as you said, Russ, when you see Lacazette trying to get around the pitch, he can't really do it as he used to. But not saying that he was blisteringly quick, but if we have a quick player up there, not only can he link the play, then he could sprint into the box. Makes a huge difference to us.
So please, Sir Kevin, do you have your finger on the pulse of someone that you would like to see come to the club?
Is his name Tyrese?
I've had my finger on the pulse for many a time at Arsenal, and looking who I want to side. I wanted to bring in Tammy Abraham last summer. People were shooting me down. Oh, he's not good. He can't do this. He can't do that. Have you seen what he's doing out in Italy?
It's just because the Chelsea.
Yeah, again, he's young. He's actually an Arsenal fan, I believe. So he fits the profile. I want people who fits the profile. There's the young lad. Is it Broha at Southampton?
Oh, yeah.
He looks half decent. Not saying he's not Tammy, but he looks half decent. He looks physical. He can play. So,
What about Marcus Rashford?
I wouldn't. For me, I don't think Marcus Rashford's a number 9. I think he's a winger.
Yeah.
So then you go in against
Martinelli.
Saka, Martinelli, Pepe. Hey, listen, if Pepe goes, then you could maybe bring. I don't think Rashford will leave Man United, but you could then, because if you've got big games, then you're gonna have to flip. Look what happens when we go into the cup and we rest certain players. We're not strong enough depth-wise. Yeah. So we need to have that squad who we can mix and match, chop and change, and we're as strong. So
there's someone in the chat who won't give up on talking about Mbappe. So I think we have our answer right there. We're getting Mbappe.
Someone just mentioned in the chat earlier. He mentioned Patrick Schick. I think he plays for Bayer Leverkusen.
Patrick Schick.
I've liked him when I've seen it play.
Again, he's big.
Jonathan
he's strong.
David.
He could score goals. Jonathan David's good link player, and he could score goals. He's quick. Anyone like that, really. But listen, I'm a bit with Lee on this one. I trust Mikel Arteta and Edu to get it right. I really do. Listen, I'm not saying that they're going to be the answer in the end because I don't know. Would I be happy? I'd be happy to keep this together to make it successful. But what they've done last summer, this summer, I've got to trust them moving forward. So, listen, guys, I think we need to get on to predictions because the time's flying, and Lee, you've got a massive event coming up after this. So let's go with Magic Mike first, and I'll work my way back. Magic Mike, Russ, and then Lee. What's your prediction for this game, Magic?
This feels like it's been so long since I actually predicted an Arsenal win, just out of superstition. I'll predict a 2-2. If I predict 2-2, that means I'm confident.
All right, 2-2 it is then. All right.
So yeah, I don't want to ruin that now. I'm gonna go with it. I'm gonna go with a 2-2, and I don't know if I'm supposed to call a 2-2 what a 2-2 is often called.
Desmond, call it a Desmond.
I didn't know if that was like the unacceptable these days to talk about.
No, just say Desmond.
I'm going with a Desmond.
Right.
Which means we're gonna win.
Yeah. Cool. What's your thoughts on the game and the prediction for the result, mate?
Me, I'm going for a 2-1 Arsenal win because I think we've still got the odd mistake in us, but I think we can score goals now. I think we're starting to get a bit of mojo back in the final third, so I'm going to go for a 2-1 win.
2-1 win. Lee, Mr. Judges, your thoughts on the Arsenal on Sunday and the prediction?
I think that if Mikel's got something that he's not happy with at the moment, it's just that thing of conceding a couple of little goals here and there, like Brentford right at the end, like against Wolves and all that. At home, I still like a clean sheet at home as well. And I know it sounds silly, it's the things that I'm used to. I don't know, I'm going to predict 2-0, but I wouldn't be surprised if Leicester score, and that disappoints me a little bit. Like, you know, that they ask for, maybe because we've been a little bit more expensive over the last few games. We've definitely more expensive against Watford, and that left us opened a little bit. I don't know, but when I look at, I'm going to be honest. I look at our back four now and our goalkeeper, and we're all sort of agreeing that we're not looking to upgrade on any of them. We're probably looking to bring in Saliba back to challenge for it and see what happens. But I don't think we're saying, we need to improve here, improve there. So what I want to see, particularly going forward in these games now, particularly against decent teams like Leicester and that, is clean sheets. So that's something I'm looking at. So I'm gonna be bold and say 2-0, but I wouldn't be surprised if they nick a goal.
Well, do you know what? I'm predicting 3-1. I think Leicester, they've still got firepower and they're decent going forward, but I just thought the way we're playing attacking wise, I think we've been really good. I think we've been really good. Saka's on fire, Odegaard's on fire, Partey's playing brilliantly in the midfield. Even Granit Xhaka's playing the ball forward. I mean, it's surprising me. And you know what was quite pleasing, guys? And I just want to get, this is the last little bit. Martinelli didn't have a great game against Watford.
No.
But when it mattered and he got that chance, he buried it.
And you could tell he was relieved by it as well. I think he knows he's under,
pressure a bit, yeah.
Yeah, I think you know what it's like, Kev. You know, he's under pressure for his place, you know. And I tell you how he knows that is that when the substitution's going to be made, even though I don't, you know, on Sunday, it's him that comes off. And off goes Saka to the left-hand side and he comes off. So he knows he's under a little bit of pressure to perform. And I think that goal his confidence lifted from that goal. So I think he knows that he's not secure. I think, like, you know, when Saka goes in on on Sunday, he knows he's going to be playing. Like, you know what I mean? I think Martinelli's looking at the team sheet because I'm thinking, is he going to play him? Is he not? You know what I mean? But that goal on Sunday, make sure that, well, it tells me that he plays now.
He's going to play. He's going to play Sunday.
Yeah.
What's your thoughts on that, Russ?
Well, when Pep Guardiola nurtures Phil Foden, it's brilliant. It's a brilliant manager. He's done a brilliant job nurturing the talent. But when Arteta is like nursing him through, because don't forget he had a really awful injury, didn't he, that he picked up. And I think they've been really, really careful with him because they didn't want to mess him up. And they know what a talent he is. And I just feel that he's just been used sparingly just to try and get him back and build his body up. I mean, he's filled out a lot as well, hasn't he? I think he's a more muscular player now than when he first came. Same with Saka. I think even Odegaard's bulked out a little bit as well from being a little wispy thing. So
stronger,
stronger. Yeah. Praise to the way the team have handled the injury and his what's the word I'm looking for? Yeah, his physiotherapy side, getting him back into the swing of things and not ruining the player. We've seen lots of good talented players in this league be ruined by overplaying, and so
the development's important, isn't it?
For a guy who fell out with Arteta and
rehabilitation,
for a guy who like supposedly was frozen out by Mikel Arteta, who can't keep relationships with players and is a poor man manager. The guy came out this week and said he can imagine himself. Well, but that's the narrative. And didn't Martinelli come out this week and said I could see myself playing my whole career here? He loves it at Arsenal. He loves the way the team is going, and
he loves the culture.
I mean, let the player tell you what's going on, not the narrative not
the fan.
Yeah, and who knows how Pepe feels? He might feel differently, but he might not. He might have the same opinion that Martinelli does right now, despite not getting the most playing time.
I think that's an interesting one because I think after Pepe done really well against Wolves, a lot of Gooners were clamoring for Pepe to start. But with Martinelli there, with ESR there, I think he's gonna get his opportunity to make a difference from the bench. But I think starting, I think we've got to go with what's really taken us this far.
As you said before, Kevin, we don't see him train, do we? And when the manager comes out and says he's come back from the African Cup of Nations, a different player with a different attitude, that tells you something, don't it? That tells you something.
I can't wait to see him playing against, you know, in the group stages next season in the Europa League, in the Champions League. I mean, that's the kind of football where Pepe is going to be a monster. So
where he gets a lot of 1v1. That's if he's at the club. I mean,
but that's what I'm saying. I think he should be at the club next season.
Yeah,
and unlike this season, he won't have to be fighting for, you know, one available spot every, you know, week to 10 days. There'll be a game every 4 or 5 days at times of the season, and he'll get his playing time.
But here's the difference, Lee. Here's the difference. We don't need the manager to be saying after he comes back from AFCON, oh, he's come back a different player. He should have that attitude all the way through.
100%. 100%. You know, listen, I'm going to be, I've said it and I'll say it 100 times. I don't think Arteta really trusts Pepe. I think that's where it comes to, because he's never really given him a run of games to do it and all that. I'll keep saying the point. I'm not having him coming in for Martinelli or Saka at this moment in time. Yeah. I'm not, you know.
I think the next one up, Smith Rowe, isn't it? The next
exactly.
one up from there is
Smith Rowe's in front of him on that line, and I'd love him to do really well, like, you know. But ultimately, you know, it's not happened for him, and that's not his. It's, you know, not his fault, and it's just the way it is. And you know, what he's got to do is come on like he did against Wolves and turn the game and be patient. And when one of these players is out, then, you know, it comes from there, like, you know. So for me, you know, it doesn't. Also, I think, which is a strange thing. I don't know how everybody feels about that. When he comes on, Saka goes straight over to the left-hand side. Why don't they give him a run on the left-hand side? Because he's never going to get in the right-hand side in front place of Saka. That's never going to happen. His challenge is to get in front of Martinelli, if anybody. But
if you remember, Lee, that period when he scored that season, he scored 16 goals. Was when he was playing more predominantly on the left-hand side.
Yeah. Yeah, so I don't know why Mikel don't want. Maybe he don't want him to play well there, so because he might have to play.
No. Listen, time out, Lee, time out. Listen, he wants him to play. He wants everyone to play well. Come on now. We want them. Hey, listen, but I tell you what, we're gonna stop it there, because listen, what I've got to say is I've got to promote the Lee's video. Lee went to the Tollington to talk about the Leicester game in a bit more detail, right? So make sure you stay tuned for the full preview of Lee's new video coming up. So stay tuned, everybody. And listen, I'd just like to thank Magic Mike. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you,
Gooner Russ, as always, absolutely special talking to you. The main man, Lee Judges, obviously on Lee Judges TV. And all of you fans who come on and join us, we really appreciate you. But that's it. Everyone thinks we're going to beat Leicester, apart from Magic Mike, but he reckons we're going to win anyway.
I technically do, but I don't want to say
it. No, you said it now.
But he does anyway. Anyway,
he's called out of Desmond. No, you can't go back on that.
So listen, everyone, thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time. Don't forget, check out Lee's new video next.